Hi, everybody. Thanks for clicking on this video to learn a little more about the reading engagement assignments that are part of this course. The reading engagements might be slightly different than the kind of work you may have experience with in the English classroom, but I think they're a really great and efficient way to keep you engaged in the work of the course, but not to add to extraneous busy work around the core academic labor of a literature class, which is reading the literature. So the reading engagements have been designed to allow you to receive credit for the work that you are already doing in the form of the readings that are built into the class. Sometimes you'll see a reading engagement style in which a professor will have you read the works and then you're just expected to talk about the works. And that I think can be a little alienating. The distance between the work itself and the discussion of the work can sometimes feel a little arbitrary or artificial. And I think the best way to demonstrate that you're really engaging with the works themselves is to get credit for the critical reading that you undoubtedly should be doing anyway inside a literature course. So what I want to do in this video is I want to walk through the guidelines for the reading engagement opportunities because, as I said, it's a style of assessment that you might not have had any previous experience with. And then I want to walk you through some of the options that you have for submitting the reading engagements to me as part of the work that you're doing in the course. So really, without further ado, let's switch over to the screen share. And I'm going to show you the guidelines themselves that are part of the Ivy Learn site for our course. So you'll have to forgive me. I really want to go through these guidelines pretty in depth. I know that you can read these guidelines on your own, and if you would like to skip ahead in the video, if you've read these guidelines and you're feeling pretty confident in that you understand what I'm asking you to do, and you want to skip to how to submit them, you're certainly welcome to do that. I won't know exactly at this moment what the timestamp is for you to skip to, but you can move forward in the video a little bit if that's what you want. But I really want to go through the actual expectations of the assignment first. Then I want to turn to how they're going to be assessed. And then I want to turn to how you're going to submit them. So let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this particular kind of work in our course. We're going to spend a significant amount of time and energy engaging and interacting with the texts of our course and with interpreting those texts. You are going to demonstrate your engagement with the texts by annotating them. To annotate is to mark up a text as you read. It not only includes things like underlining or highlighting or drawing some sort of lines to draw attention to the text, but it's also writing on the text. It's responding to the text. It's capturing your real-time responses and the work of your reading mind. Annotations are something that all critical readers should be doing. You should have learned previously in at least the elementary composition courses that are taught in high schools, and then the freshman composition courses that are taught in college. You should have learned how to take a text, and as you're in the process of reading it with something in your hand, going through and marking up the text, trying to capture the important information and responding to that text in real time. So my philosophy is that instead of asking you to do the reading on one hand and then also produce some other artifact to demonstrate that you've done the reading or to demonstrate your engagement with the reading, you might as well get your academic labor recognized for the work that you're already doing. That is to say, as you are reading the text for this course, you should be in the process of annotating, highlighting, drawing important notations on the text, responding to the text in real time. Since you should already be doing that work, my philosophy is you should get credit for that work. And that's the work that really falls under the reading engagement opportunities. So in what's a classic text in our field, the How to Read a Book, Mortimer Adler argues that annotating a text is, quote, indispensable to reading it, that the annotation and the critical reading, they go hand in hand. And why would this be? Well, annotation keeps you awake and it keeps you engaged. You are doing more than just passively letting the words come into you. You are holding yourself accountable for the words. You are paying attention so that you can have things to respond to. Annotations also reflect your reading mind, your thinking mind. And when you annotate, it helps you remember not just what the text is saying, but it also helps you understand what drew your attention in the text. It's a great tool to go back in order to study if you're annotating a textbook, or it's a great tool to be able to go back in time and see what was really interesting to you at the time that you first read the text. When you fully annotate a text, you have a better idea of what the text is doing and also what you were doing. And a fully annotated text feels like something that you have lived in. And to show you what I mean by that, I thought maybe what I'd do is pull up a random page or so out of our anthology. I use a physical copy of our anthology for this course, but if I hold up the page itself, you can see that the page is thoroughly notated. I've got things that are underlined. I've got comments in the margin. I draw arrows in the margin. Sometimes I circle page numbers in the upper corner when I think it's a really important page. I will also use, here's an example of using a bracket where a whole section of something is really important, and I'll draw a bracket around the whole section, and I'll write some sort of note in the margin that communicates at the time why I thought that was important. This particular notation simply says, baking, brewing, singing, cleaning, bathing, clothing, hunting, civilization. This comes from a moment in the Epic of Gilgamesh where the wild man Enkidu is in the process of transitioning from a state of nature into a state of civilization. And it talks about the things that he does, and I'm drawing attention to the fact that these are hallmarks of civilization. This is what would separate the animals, the non-human animals, from humans who live in civilization, right? We bake, we brew, we sing, we clean, we bathe, we create clothes, we go hunting in groups. These are things that separate us. And so I'm drawing attention to that. Sometimes I am simply asking myself a question in the margin. Sometimes I'm drawing attention to something in particular. So here's an example of, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there are many dreams. And so as the dreams are happening, I'm noting to myself, this is dream 1, dream 2, dream 3. So as I go back and look at the text, you can see that the text has a feeling that I have lived with it, that I have spent time responding to it. Sometimes I write out in the margin little pieces of interpretation. This one says, fear the gods will hear, but there's certainty of fame. That might not make any sense, kind of decontextualized if you've never read the Epic of Gilgamesh, but that particular moment could be beneficial to understanding things related to the text. Sometimes I'm drawing attention to the things that I really want to not forget. So, for example, Tablet 7 of the Epic of Gilgamesh, well, spoiler alert, a character dies in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and this is a moment where I've drawn lots of attention to death, all capital letters, to say that this is an important thematic element that's happening in the text. If there are symbols in the text that draw my attention, or things that seem really interesting to me, or connections that I can make to other texts, this is a great opportunity to go through and make those connections. So you can see that a well-annotated text feels like a text that has been lived in for a little while. Now, I want to make clear a couple of things. First, there is no singularly correct way to annotate, right? All of our annotations are going to look very different from each other. We're going to be drawn to different things. Different lines are going to stand out. In fact, I've never annotated a text the exact same way, and I've annotated and re-annotated multiple texts. And as I go through in this particular class and reread the works that we'll be exploring together over the next 8 weeks, I will be adding to my annotations as I notice new things. So this is sort of an ongoing process of adding resources and thoughts and questions. As I've learned and grown, as I've read the text multiple times, I see different things. If you don't have an annotation system already, you're likely going to develop your own as the course goes on. My annotations differ if I'm writing in a book, right? I prefer to write in books when I do with a pencil. Ink will seep through these really fine sort of onion skin pages that the Norton Anthology is made up of. If I'm writing on a photocopy or a printed paper, I like to use blue ink because the blue provides a nice contrast to the black and white of a photocopy. If I'm digitally annotating, as I'll show you how to do in just a moment, I like color. I like yellow as my color, and I like to insert comments when I do so. So common annotation techniques, the types of things that you would want to be doing. Sometimes students say, well, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to mark on a text. And I would say, well, if you don't have any experience with that, first, this is a list of some ideas of things that you can do. But second, you'll get better at it as you go, right? I mean, sometimes I think we have this misconception that college is about coming into a class with all the knowledge and then demonstrating the knowledge and then leaving the class. In my world, I want you to learn and grow, to try new things, to get better, and I'll be providing feedback as much as I can. So some possible things that you can do when you annotate include underlining. When you underline, you draw attention to major points or forceful statements or key ideas. Note, you can't underline everything, because if you do underline everything, then nothing's important, right? You're looking for the major things, and sometimes you don't know what the major things are until you get into a habit of reading critically. You might draw vertical lines or brackets in the margin. This can emphasize a particular passage that's too long to be underlined. So if there's a really important paragraph, you might draw lines, or a portion of a poem, you might draw lines around it. Stars and asterisks and exclamation points. These are things that you can use really sparingly, but it can also help draw attention to something. I'll use 1 star for something that's meaningful, 2 or 3 stars for something that's really important. Sometimes I'll draw stars and underline and use an exclamation point if it's like super important and I really want to draw my attention to it. You can draw circles around things. You can draw boxes around things, right? Enclosing here could be in reference to drawing a box around something. It's similar to underlining, but it can capture a larger amount. And also maybe it will stand out given the shape that's on the page. As you're going back through a text, it can help draw your attention. Oh, this was something that I thought was really important. So you might want to zoom back in. And that's where using boxes and underlining can be really helpful, and to say, well, my boxes are going to be more important than the things that I underline. I like to tell students to look for what I call exemplary moments. These are scenes or lines or actions that best define what a text is doing. So if you get the impression, for instance, that a text is really about the meaning of life, which many of our ancient texts are about the meaning of life, then when a text explores death and the consequences of death, well, that's an exemplary moment. Or if the text includes some sort of really important wisdom, that it's trying to impart on you. That could be thought of as an exemplary moment. No annotation is complete without writing. Annotation is not just marking on a page. We've been talking, sort of 1, 2, 3, and 4 are marking. 5, 6, and 7 are kind of related to the actual writing on the text. So you can write in the margins, and when you do, you can do things like simplify what's happening. There's a really important thing that's happening in that moment. You can use an annotation to say, this is what's happening in this moment. You can pair that with a bracket around a large section or a box around a large section, right? You can ask questions in the margin. You can keep track of characters in the margin, or keep track of a reference to another text in the margin. You can share your responses, your personal, real, authentic responses, right? I've had students write really funny things on annotations before. I've had students swear on annotations before. I mean, it's your lived personal response to a text. That's what's going to help me understand what's going through your head as you're reading. You can make connections to something else in the course or something else that you've read before. If you want to challenge something that an author says, an author says something that you disagree with, you can respond to it in a text. Or maybe you want to identify and explicate literary elements. So if there's a beautiful passage with a metaphor in it, a metaphor is a comparison of two things that usually don't go together, but for the sake of understanding the essence of the metaphor helps bring it to life. Or maybe there's some sort of symbol in the text, or a powerful moment, literary moment that's drawing attention to itself, and you want to draw attention to it. So you could talk about it later, right? So you could cite something on your discussion board post, or you could talk about it in your paper, or you could talk about it in a self-reflection, right? That's an opportunity for you to engage. And when you write on the text, it helps draw attention to things. You can also write a note at the end of the text. And I really recommend this as a strategy. A note that you add at the very end that sort of summarizes all of your thoughts about the text. That can be something really worth coming back to and reading as you're working on your paper, or as you're trying to engage in a discussion board analysis. We're going to read a lot of things in this class, and if you're taking other classes at the same time as this one, you'll no doubt maybe struggle to keep things straight. And so, good annotations will help you keep that straight and clear. You can combine all of the above strategies. You can use brackets and then write a comment next to it. The best annotations are going to include a combination of these 7 strategies, right? Not just going through and underlining, not just going through and putting stars, but some sort of combination of these. And it's also really important, again, to emphasize that annotations are a combination of marking up the text and writing your response to it. Just marking the text really isn't full engagement, and just writing a comment at the end is also not really full engagement. It's that combination of the two that's going to bring the full engagement. I want to emphasize here that as long as you're doing some sort of combination of these things, there's really no correct way to do it. It's just as long as you're doing the combination. Everyone's annotations are going to look different. Yours will look different from mine. Mine will look different from your classmates. My annotations this time around will look different than my annotations the last time I taught this class, right? What interests me more than anything is what your individual connection to the text is. Let's talk a little bit about assessment of the annotations. So they constitute a rather large portion of your grade. And that's on purpose, right? I believe the goal of a literature course is to read great works of literature. That's my number one goal, right? The primary goal of a literature course isn't necessarily to write about great works of literature in, 18 mini papers or something, but to read and to reflect and to understand and to appreciate and to engage, right? And I want you to have the time and the freedom to spend with the texts. I don't want you to have to rush through the text so that you can write something and submit it by the end of the week. That's not really, I think, the most meaningful approach to literature that you can take. So I think we should try to recreate the organic conditions of reading, which annotation is an organic condition of reading. It's not just something you do in college. It's something many people do all the time. When they sit down to read something, they've got a writing utensil in hand and they're marking it up as they're going through and reading it. So I'm trying to recreate the organic experience of reading critically, and while also giving you credit for the work that you were doing. Ideally, every page of a primary document is going to be annotated to some degree. When I say primary document, I mean the story, the poem, the play, the whatever. Every page ideally has something on it that's drawn attention or caught your attention. I think if you read deeply enough, you'll find something on every page. It's really not that hard to find something to connect with. In longer readings, you might have a couple blank pages or something, but if you only marked up the first 2 pages and then the rest of the text is blank, we can't really say that that's a fully engaged with text. So I think there's usually something on each page. And again, this is something that you can get better at the more and more that you do it. You do not have to annotate the contextual essays that I post for recommended reading, and you don't have to annotate the prefatory material that's in the anthology. You should read it, but you don't have to annotate it. You just have to annotate the primary text, the creative, the literary text. Reading engagements are called REOs in our course, stands for Reading Engagement Opportunity. They're scored at a half point per page. So if a reading is 20 pages long from our text, it's worth 10 points. So half point a page, however many pages it is, divide by 2, and that gives you a sense of the total points that are put into place. Most of the annotations that get submitted are going to simply be marked complete, you've done it, full credit, or incomplete, you didn't do it, or it's not adequately annotated, or it needs to be resubmitted in some way. So that's essentially what you can expect. If there are any concerns, any sort of middle ground areas where you're doing it, but you're not doing it completely well, or I need to give you some more guidance or more feedback, I will do that. And don't forget too, if you don't get the assessment marks that you want for the work that you've done, you can always revise and resubmit. You don't have to start from scratch. You can add to what was already there, and you can resubmit again to be up for full credit. But considering the work that we're doing is a lot for the term, you want to make sure that you are not falling too far behind. You don't want to be trying to annotate 3 texts at the same time that you're starting 3 more texts, that sort of thing. Okay, so the reading engagement opportunities, it's worth 35% of the final grade. Like I said, about a third of the class. You'll find that this is really the most work you're going to be doing in the week. And you've got the paper that you're working on, you've got the discussions and the quizzes, but I think the reading engagements, they're the largest portion of your final grade, and they're the work that's going to be the most significant that you're going to be working on for the class. So let's talk about how to submit these annotations. When you submit the annotations, you have a couple of options. The first one is you can annotate the text built into the assignment in Canvas/Ivy Learn. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a second. So I've designed the class in a way that there are PDFs attached. You can go through and do the whole annotation for every single text, and that's perfectly fine. And I'll show you how to do that here. And the other option that you would have is you can annotate directly in the Ivy Plus bookshelf. And I'll show you how to do that too, and how you can export your annotations and then upload them for your assessment. Your third option is you can download the PDF as a text. Then you can mark up the PDF using some sort of third-party software like Mac OS Preview or Adobe Reader, or you can put it in Google Drive and mark up Google Drive. You can then upload the PDF, there's the portion of the PDF that you've annotated, just upload those pages. That's one option that you have as well. This can be really appealing if you have like an Apple Pencil or a stylus that you use on a Chromebook or some other sort of digital writing tool. Option number 4 is you can print the reading. You can mark it up, annotate it if you want, and then you can upload photos of your text, or you can upload a PDF, a scanned in PDF of the text. Now, the best way to do that is to use Google Drive, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. But all told, you've got a number of possibilities that are on hand in order to submit your REOs. So let's walk through them really quickly and show you kind of what some of the options are. So in the course modules section under coursework, every reading that you have to annotate for our course is listed as REO : and then the reading. So REO Gilgamesh, REO Genesis, REO Job. Those are the 3 readings that are required for the start of our course for week 1. When you click on the REO for Genesis, let me switch into student view so this will be a little more what it looks like from your perspective. You can see that you have a couple of options for how you can submit. And the default option here is what's called the student annotation option. So this is the page that you have. In the upper left corner is a download button. So you can click the download button and you can download this PDF, this 12-page PDF, to your computer if you want to mark it up. Or you can annotate right on the PDF. And so the buttons that are over along the right are your annotation buttons. And there are a variety of options that you have. This one that looks like sort of a light bulb, this allows you to leave comments, right? So if I were to put a dot here, right, this will let me leave a comment on the PDF of the Book of Genesis excerpt. And then you click away and you're done. So as you go through, you can insert comments like this. If you would like to highlight certain moments of the text, you can click the highlight button. And then you can also highlight and leave a comment too. So if you want to draw attention, right? Interesting verb choice, began to create. And there's something in the original translation of Hebrew into English that, began to create is a better way to phrase the action of the sentence rather than created. You can add text as well. You can add text to the document, right? And you can change your color up here, right? So you can use like a blue text. And you could say, Adam and Eve. You can change the size of the text, or you can make it larger, or you can make it smaller. You can strike out passages if you want to. I don't know why you would necessarily want to use that one for this particular kind of engagement. You can use the paintbrush tool to draw boxes around, and then you can write a comment and leave something here. Each act of creation is said to be good, right? And then you can also draw shapes. So you can select the color that you want. You can say, I have a preference here for the yellow and the blue. I think they work nice together. But if I wanted to draw some attention to something, I might draw a box here. And again, I can leave a comment. God says, let us make a human in our image. Plural pronouns, question mark, right? And I'm doing this really quickly. I'm not necessarily giving it the full reading experience that one might like, but as I'm going through and reading this, I can do this. There are footnotes down here at the bottom that I might respond to or look for some connection with. And then when I'm done, when I've gone through and annotated all of the reading assignment, well, actually, before I say that, let me say you can actually walk away from your annotations. You don't have to submit at the same time that you start. You can come back to the annotation later and add more to it. So if it's a longer reading and you only have time to do 10 pages, you can go through and annotate, then walk away, then come back and continue working on your assignment. So please keep that in mind too. You can then, when you're done, you can come here and click submit assignment. And what this will do is it will then send your annotated PDF to me to look through, and I'll make sure that everything is looking really great and functioning, and I'll give you feedback on the annotations. Okay. So you have a couple other options if you want to do some other options. If you would like to upload a file for me to download and look at, maybe a folder that you've turned into a zip file, or a PDF that you've gone through and annotated and on your own, and then you would like to attach that PDF to the document. Maybe you downloaded it and then you've used your pencil to annotate it, and now you want to re-upload that PDF. You're welcome to do that too. You can also, under the text entry box, you can paste in a link to to a Google Drive folder, so that I can access the Google Drive folder and look through maybe scanned PDFs or pictures. That's also something that's fine too. Okay, so this gives you a sense then of how you can annotate using the REO assignment feature that's built into the class. Let's go over to the bookshelf now and show you the second way that you can annotate and upload and submit. So here we are inside the virtual book. We've clicked on Ivy Plus bookshelf link, and then that leads us here, and then we click read now, and it loads into the reader that comes along with the text. I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm actually going to click on the Book of Genesis inside our virtual book, and see, same text here, but it's uploaded this way. To go through and annotate the text, I actually want to click the page with the star icon next to it. So as I click onto this will allow me to set some of my preferences for how I want things to look, right? So under highlights and notes, I can actually come through and highlight the text. And then I can set my note, or I can change my preferences for my reading preferences. I mentioned how yellow tends to be my preference. So actually, I'm going to go in under reader preferences. This is the capital A with the little a. I'm going to change my highlighters, and I want to create a highlighter of yellow. Not the one with the people inside. That's a public highlight. I want to just create my regular yellow highlighter. So then as I go through and I'm reading my text, I can add highlighting to it. I can also click add a note. So if I would like to add a comment to the text while I do that, verb choice here says began to create, and then you might want to make some kind of comment about that, some sort of meaningful comment for the sake of your annotations. I can go through and keep adding comments or engagement in some way, and to add questions or comments, right? God created the great sea monsters. Never heard that before, right? So I might add a note, sea monsters. What does this refer to? Like a note to myself, or a note that maybe I want to ask the professor. Hey, I noticed there's an image that's part of this text. Great sea monsters. What might that refer to, right? So you can go through and add comments. Under the e-reader that's built into the class, you're limited in the types of things that you can put on it. Really, you can just highlight and add comments. So you can't draw the boxes, you can't draw brackets, you can't make certain kinds of connections like that. You're really limited to those two features. But now, when I am done with my reading, I can come up to export, highlights, and notes. And what it will do is it will create a PDF where the text that I've highlighted is present and my response to it is in bold under it. And it'll go through the entire document that way. And it'll create a PDF that then I can choose to download, save to my computer as a PDF, then return to the REO. And then instead of annotating on the actual document, what I would want to do is click on File, Upload, and then upload my file, the annotated export that came out of the e-reader. So that's option number 2. So option 1, you can annotate in Canvas Ivy Learn. If I were doing digital annotations, honestly, that would be the one that I would do. But if you would like to annotate in the e-reader, you have an option to do that as well. Just click Ivy Plus Bookshelf and then make sure that you are able to highlight and add notes. And then you click the export button, and then that will allow you to upload a PDF to our course that will show your annotations throughout the text. Okay, another option that you have, I mentioned this, you can download the PDF and you can annotate and then re-upload the PDF. And as I showed you last time, you would do that by, well, leave student view. This is sort of hiccuping a little bit because I've already marked some annotations on it. But here you can see, right, I've returned to my text and there are my annotations ready to go. You can click the download button here and download the PDF, and then you can annotate it with on an iPad with a pencil, an Apple Pencil, or if you have a stylus on a Chromebook, then save that PDF and then attach it as an upload, give it back to me with your writing on it. That's also perfectly fine. The last option, option number 4, is the option that I think probably I would most likely end up doing if I were taking this class as a student right now. I mentioned in one of my other videos that I have a preference toward the physical text itself. I like to have a book in my hand. It helps me read and not get distracted. It helps me focus. I like to read with a pencil in hand. I like to mark up the text as I go. But, you're thinking to yourself, well, then how are you going to take that very text that you're marking up and submit it to the course for credit, right? If we were in class, in a physical classroom together, you could let me look at your book, or you could turn in a printed copy of a reading, and that would be very simple for me to assess. So how would we go about using a physical book in a class like this? Well, I think the answer lies in the fact that we all now walk around with the computers in our pocket that have cameras built into them, and we can take pictures of things. So if it were me, And I was trying to use my physical book to go through and do my reading and mark everything up. I would take pictures, right? Here's an example of a page from the Epic of Gilgamesh. These are my actual annotations on the page. You can see that it's not super heavy. Got some written comments in the margins. I've got some brackets. I've got some circles. I've got some written comments at the bottom and some interpretations of what's going on in the text. Some stars and some underlines. But again, it's not super heavy. So I've got this picture, right? So what then can I do with this picture? Let's say I've gone through and I've taken a picture of all of the pages that I've read and annotated. And now I've got something like 20 or 30 photos on my phone, right? The easiest thing to do is to then take those photos off your phone, put them into your computer, and then drop them into your Google Drive account. So let me show you really quickly where to go to do that. And I'm gonna show you my Google Drive account that's associated with my Ivy Tech account now. So clicking on this account, you can see I've created a folder. I just go to drive.google.com, right? And everybody has a access to this as part of your Ivy Tech account. You have a lot of storage space, 300 gigabytes, at least associated with my account. Hopefully yours has a good amount of space that's associated with it as well. And so I've created a folder and I've just titled it English 220 World Literature 1. I would then want to go through and create a folder for each of the texts that I am reading in the course. I'm going to create a folder here. Just click the new button and click new folder. And I'm going to call this one Genesis. And then I'm going to create another new folder. And I'm going to call this one Job. And so now I've got my my 3 readings for the week. I would then take the photo that I pulled off of my phone, or all of the photos that I pulled off the phone, and I would just upload them to this folder, right? So here's this photo that came off of my phone. I click it and open it, and you can see here's the reading that I have done with my annotations that are attached to it. So now I can go back to my folder here, my main folder that has all of my readings in it. And there's a little kebab style button over here. That's what these are called, by the way. The 3-dot buttons are called the kebab buttons. And you can click that button and say share. So now I want to share this folder. And I want to make sure that I'm sharing it with the professor. So you would want to go through and add your own add my email address to your folder, or change your restrictions to Ivy Tech Community College so that anybody inside Ivy Tech can access this folder with all of your pictures in it. Then you would want to say copy link, and then go back to the REO assignment in Canvas Ivy Learn, paste in this link to this Google Drive folder, and then click submit. And then when I go through to look at and assess, I can go through and see each page that you've annotated and make sure that you've finished the assignment, and then give you your proper credit for it. So that encompasses all 4 of the possibilities for turning in annotations. Those are the 4 that I came up with as the instructor for the course. You can do the student annotation feature in the REO assignment. You can do the annotations inside the Ivy Plus bookshelf ebook and export your annotations. You could download the PDF and mark it up with some sort of digital stylus and then re-upload the PDF that you have now annotated. Or if you have a physical copy of the book, you could write in the book and mark it up. Or if it's a library book and you don't want to write in the book, you could use Post-it notes to add to the text, or some sort of way in which you are engaging with the reading, and then upload them that way. Those are ideas that I've come up with, but I want to conclude this video by simply saying my list does not have to be exhaustive. If you have ideas ways that you would like to be able to demonstrate that you are doing the readings and engaging with the text and staying on top of everything that's expected of you and making sure that you're getting the credit for doing the readings and engaging with the readings in some way, or you'd like to create a hybrid, or you'd like to do it one way for one kind of text and another way for another kind of text, then that's perfectly fine. And you can reach out to me and we can brainstorm a solution together. The point in all of this is not to be overly complicated. The point is to let you read the texts and effectively get credit for the class by doing that critical reading. That just doing the reading is not going to be enough to pass the class, right? But it's going to be awfully difficult to pass the class, if at all, without doing any of the readings, right? 35% is a pretty significant portion of the grade. So this is a nice compromise, I think, between various types of assessments that you usually see in literature classes, and also a type of assessment that privileges your interaction with the text as the central meaning, the most significant portion of the work that you're doing. If you have any questions about reading engagements, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you, get on Zoom, walk you through. We can do screen share. We can make sure that you totally understand everything that is involved. I hope this video is helpful, and good luck. And I'm looking forward to reading your first round of engagements on Gilgamesh, Genesis, and Job.